far as painting and art goes, I haven't ever done any digital drawing until this. This is my very first project for you guys, is doing this kind of digital drawing. Usually I'm painting with acrylics, and that's sort of my usual way, but I think that for me, like, being inspired and being creative has a lot to do with changing up what I do and trying to try new things and learning all the time. Fortunately, I work at the library, so it's easy to always find art books and find inspiration. And so I spent some time going through images and thinking about what kinds of things I would want to draw, and decided on just going for a simple kind of color scheme, simple kinds of drawings, and also found myself inspired by, I had purchased a copy of Happiness is a Warm Puppy, one of my favorite books from when I was little, that used kind of that 70s advertising style of just using simple line drawings with, color blocking. And so that was kind of what I focused on for this particular project. It was just fun to think up different situations that people would be doing, and kind of meditative situations. So I was trying to think about gardening and making things and going through processes. Like, that's what I find meditative, is doing sort of repetitive actions in a way that kind of makes you lose yourself. And that's probably why I like drawing, I guess, because it's sort of just it's almost monotonous in a way, but it like, you get into a frame of mind, and I think that's what I liked about this project, was just sort of thinking about what kinds of things I do to sort of lose myself, and what kinds of things other people do to kind of meditate and just be part of nature, part of the larger universe. I grew up out in the country, so I was fortunate to have a lot of woods behind my house, where I spent most of my childhood, I think. I imagine myself as kind of raised by wolves. And so I would spend a lot of time just sitting outside under trees, drawing and doodling and just drawing what I saw. And that's kind of how I started. I never had any formal training. I did take a class at our art museum one time. But other than that, probably the most art I've had is photography, and that kind of taught me about composition and putting together a scene in a different way. And so I guess I really enjoy all kinds of art. But I started painting about probably 18 or so years ago, and painting as a meditation, and how that works for me, and how that's kind of, I guess I see that as sort of my spiritual life in lots of ways, because I see it as a meditation. And I think I started kind of thinking about it that way, and thinking about repetitive things being a meditation after reading Thich Nhat Hanh, and I think it was Pieces Every Step. I've purchased that book a number of times, forgetting that I own it, and then I also check it out at the library sometimes. So yeah, I read in the Thich Nhat Hanh book about how important it is to have those daily meditations, and how washing dishes is something you do every day, and probably not something that you enjoy all that much sometimes. So I try to think about, he talks about the warm water and putting your hands in the warm water, and how that's like a trigger to think, now I'm kind of meditating about this, and that going slowly and thinking about each dish and all of that can be a meditation. And so that's what I try to bring to my drawing or painting as well, is that kind of feeling that you're, losing yourself in that process, and that's a meditation and a way to connect to things around you that are bigger, and life in general. I also been listening to, I don't know if you're a fan of Krista Tippett, her On Being show. I guess I heard Sister Joan interviewed there. It's a really great show, or interview podcast, but she is interviewing Elizabeth Gilbert recently, and there's a part in that interview about how the things that are really important in life sometimes are about 90% boring. And she talks about that concept about how it's in that boring kind of repetitive motion of life in general, like the things that you do every day, that you can really lose yourself and make that into a meditation for your life. And so I've been thinking a lot about that concept every day too. I'm not sure that 90% of the things that I do are really boring. I think actually it's probably a lot less than that for me, but I think it's just that idea that the creative process, people have this idea that the creative process is always this exciting, like mind-blowing thing, but in reality, a lot of it is, sitting and really dedicating yourself to the action of drawing, and not necessarily always enjoying it or being comfortable or feeling inspired, but just pushing through until you get to what you're trying to get to. But I feel like a lot of people have that concept that it's this magical, mystical process of I don't know, but it's really, to me, it's a very common thing that everyone has access to. Creativity is something that everyone has access to, maybe in a different way, maybe in different methods, but I think that it's it's an important thing to find in yourself. And if you can find it through simple everyday actions like washing dishes and whatever, you can meditate on washing dishes, and you have to do that anyway. So it's a great way to find that part of yourself and then expand on that and learn about your own creativity and try to find that. But I think the first step has to be getting to know how your own brain works and how your own processes work, and finding your own peace in whatever meditation you do daily.